Hey, everybody. It's been a little while. Jay Real here with his sister, Kathy. Can you bring it down a little bit, Kathy? All I see is
No,
the
I'm
picture.
plugging in right now. Then I'll bring it back down.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Hi,
and
Susan.
probably for a lot of you folks, you only learned about Juneteenth in the last few years when it was made a national holiday. But me and my sister here have known about Juneteenth all our lives. Uh, because here at Lake Mahia, when my dad ran the marina down there, right across the lake was what they call Comanche Crossing. And on Juneteenth, they had a big celebration. I mean, there was lights and fireworks and live bands. I remember one year they had a Ferris wheel that was lit up. It was a big deal. Juneteenth. And what it is back in the slave days in Texas, it was 2 years after slavery was abolished that they finally found out about it. And it was Galveston. Of all places, it was Galveston where the news was learned that, they're out there doing their slave stuff. And it was Galveston. They're probably making them go out there and catch fish and shit. Catch them fish, you slaves. And someone pulled up on a horse and says, "What the fuck you doing?" He said, "We're doing our slave stuff. Slavery's been abolished." And they're like, "Well, when did this happen?" 2 fucking years ago. And it was 2 years before they found out that they were free, the slaves, in Texas.
Yep.
On June 19th. I don't know what the year was, 1756 or whatever it was. But anyway, whatever the year was, they found out that they were free. And like I say, here in Texas, they've been celebrating Juneteenth at least as long as I've been alive, as long as,
As long as I've been alive, yeah.
But probably most people in the world or in America didn't even know about Juneteenth until just a few years ago when President Biden made it a legal holiday. And so you don't get mail today. And
and
some businesses that are closed today. And
a lot of them. I called down to make sure that the Day Tripper headquarters was open. And the lady answered the phone. I said, "Are y'all open?" She said, "Yeah, we're open." I said, "Well, after I do this stream with my brother, then I'm going to head down and pick up a few things." She said, "Come on down." It's a retail store. And if you ever want to learn about Texas, on YouTube, look up the THE and then the next word is Day Tripper. And that's what they do. They go to all kinds of little towns and they highlight the towns and cities. And they went to the city that Jay lives about 7 miles from, Mahia. That's where we both went through school, all the grades, and graduated from. So if you ever want to learn about his little town, there you go, Mahia. So anyway, I'm going to go down. Their headquarters happens to be just several blocks down from me. So
there's a couple of things notable about Mahia. Probably for most people, it would be Anna Nicole Smith, who worked at the still around. I still buy chicken there, crispy fried chicken. And when she did her TV show, at the very beginning, you see a shot of the crispy fried chicken in a cartoon, and Anna Nicole Smith. Then back in the day when she was going to high school here, her name was like Nikki Smith or Nikki Taylor or something. She changed it to Anna Nicole Smith. But then there's a country singer songwriter named Cindy Walker, and pretty much every major country artist back in the day, they all sang songs.
Well, she was a songwriter, and she's in the song in the Hall of Fame for it. She wrote Bob Wills, old country singer. He did 50 of her songs. Willie Nelson's done some. Yeah, so she's been recorded by a lot of famous people.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've got a CD that Willie Nelson put out about 10 years ago of just Cindy Walker music.
Oh, yeah. There you go. But anyway, they're restoring her house. Now, when I was a young mother and had my first child, little boy, I drove for a taxi company that was in town. And I would go pick Cindy Walker up and her mama. They was just like twins. One would finish a thought and the other one would pick it up. And I'd take them down to the A&P. And they'd get groceries. They'd call back and the other fella said, I'll go get them, Miss Walker. Called and she would ask for me. No, send that little Kathy girl down here. Of course, I was 23 and when I 24 because my baby was little, and a couple of times I have to pick him up from the lady that was keeping him in town and have him with me, and they got a big kick out of that. But anyway, her mama was so sweet. I mean, the first time I ever went and picked him up to go down, drop him off to get the groceries, her mama said, honey, I said, yeah. She said, my daughter here, Cindy, she writes songs. I said, you do? She said, oh, honey, we've been to big old award shows in Hollywood and Nashville. I said, oh my gosh, nice to meet you, Cindy. And she said, yeah. And then I remember her telling her mama, she said, Mama, because this was like, gosh, in the late 70s, early 80s, her mama said, she said, Mama, she probably never heard of any of my music. And I said, but I will now,
Well,
because
actually, probably her most famous song, You Don't Know Me. And
yeah.
If you probably know that. If you're a country fan, you probably know, I know that. You don't know me. Well, Cindy Walker wrote that. And that's probably her most famous song. She wrote a bunch of stuff, but that's probably her most famous.
Yeah.
Her big hit, You Don't Know Me. And I forget who recorded that, the artist that sang that.
So I don't know, but might have been Bob Wills. But so many artists have covered her music for years. And they took Chet, that is the host of the Day Tripper, into the house, into her little room with her 2 typewriters still sitting there and her little desk and her chair. And she had brass, the monkeys, the plastic monkeys that you buy in the barrel, monkeys in the barrel. Okay. She had brass monkeys hanging above her head, above where she writes. And she said, he said, the lady giving the tour said, she figured, well, even a monkey can write music, and if it's good enough, somebody record it. She said, so she kept that as a reminder that, because back then, I mean, if you was a woman, it's hard to break into any field, much less songwriting, But I thought that was so cool that you got to do. Now, she took her to another room, opened a suitcase, and found a bunch of her unpublished recordings. She did them on reel to reel. And I thought, oh my gosh. And she played just a snippet of one, and it was so good. And it was Cindy singing it, but it was such a beautiful song. You could just see modern day Clay Walker or Jelly Roll even, or Post Malone, now that he's done a lot of country, singing these songs. And she said, yeah, there's a lot of them. They found them. They were just hidden in the house. And I thought, oh my God, in old suitcases. So I thought that was neat. But anyway, if you get a chance to watch it, I think you'll really enjoy it if you want to learn about Cindy Walker.
Yeah, if you want to look at it, look up, go to YouTube. Again, one thing, go to YouTube, look up Cindy Walker.
Go to YouTube, look up The Day Tripper, and you can actually see them going through her house.
But she lived her whole life in Mahia. She died in Mahia. And there's a real nice painting of her against the side of a building downtown of Cindy Walker. But yeah. And I really like that Willie Nelson CD that I really like that.
I'd have to.
I like anything Willie Nelson sings. But yeah, he did a whole CD of Cindy Walker's stuff.
He's 92 now.
Yeah. And he's still doing it, still recording.
Well, his sons, oh my gosh. I know one of them for sure. I can't think of his name. I love his voice. He's got that twang of his daddy's, and he sings so good. He sings with his daddy a whole lot, but it's so good. I mean, extreme heat and such. Willie can't get out and do these things he used to do. these July 4th here in Austin, he was always, um, I think it was South Park Meadows was a big open venue, and he would play and invite a lot of people up, But
What was it? The Farm Aid.
Farm Aid, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
raising money for some kind of
farmers,
farmers. Yeah,
yeah.
him and Neil Young and uh, yeah,
Oh, Jamie Johnson. A lot of really well-known singer-songwriters and musicians would play.
yeah.
I tell you what, Blake Shelton's got a new song out, and I play it not on repeat, but almost. I'll play it 2 or 3 times in a row. And I'm like, okay, I'll visit you tomorrow. It's called Texas. And so he goes into a bar and people say, how's your girl? And he'd say, not my girl. And he says, as the king said, all my exes end up in Texas. And it's really so cool the way he wrote it, the way it's written. And so
I hardly ever listen to new music. Most of these new artists that are famous, I don't know anybody.
Oh, I love them.
I swear, of all people that I really got into her new album, Lady Gaga. I mean, the last person in the world I thought I would like Lady Gaga, but I heard some songs that new album. I said, that kicks ass. And so I had Alexa. I'm sorry, Alexa. I had Alexa play her new album, and I said, "Man, shit, that's a guy like that."
Yeah.
So yeah, Lady Gaga's new album, I like that. And also, let's hear. I've got Alexa Plus now. That I was alerted by Alexa. Jay, you've been selected for Alexa Plus, and now she's more conversational. And she goes, "Do you want me to change my voice?" I said, "Yeah." And so she went through a list of different voices that I could use for Alexa, and I picked the one that's more conversational or something like that. So let's hear her new voice. Alexa, tell a joke.
How many brides does it take to change a light bulb? Just one. But it may take a few months, plus her mom, the wedding planner, and some tears of joy to pick out the right one.
There you go. You go. I like it.
It's much more of a conversational voice, like, "Hey, Jay,"
Yeah, they were talking about, I think it's Alexa on the news today, that how some people were able to go in and tell it you can't record, don't record me, Well, that they took that off. They can really record you all they want to. I said, well, I never would say nothing that I didn't care if they record me, Anyway.
But I like her new voice. It just sounds like more just like a natural person, just friendly voice. But yeah, let's go back for a moment because your memories of Juneteenth. Because, like I say, down here at Lake Mahia, it was a big deal. There at the Comanche Crossing, man, just thousands of them, and celebrating. And this morning, because I spend most of my days outside, so I was outside this morning. I'd already had my coffee, and then some cars started passing down the road in front of my house, and it was one right after the other, and they were playing loud music, and I'd had my coffee, but I still hadn't quite come to myself yet, Oh, it was 9 o'clock-ish, something like that. So I'm awake, but I'm not quite awake. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on because they're playing loud music and it's car after car after car, cars and trucks, one right after the other, just spaced about this far apart or whatever. They're going down the road, playing loud music and honking their horns. And then finally I hear someone holler, "Freedom!" And I go, "Oh, okay. Juneteenth." Okay.
Yeah.
Because someone hollered, "Freedom!" And yeah, but it must have been like 30, 35 cars.
That is so cool. I wish I'd been there. I wish I'd been there to record it. That is cool.
Had music blaring off the radios and honking their horns and probably heading down to Comanche Crossing.
Probably, because that was a big, Comanche Crossing is a big gathering place for folks all the way from Houston, Dallas. A lot of people would drive in back in the day. I mean, I'm sure there's venues closer to them now, but back in the day, that was a place to come. And I don't know, my dad got a kick out of, and we had the little concession, the marina's store open, right? And we were so busy, Daddy said, we're busier than a one-arm paper hanger. And we would be, right? I mean, they would sell us out of 30 and 40 cases of soda and candy. And Daddy would buy all this extra stuff because Juneteenth's coming up. We'd go to Waco and fill the back of his pickup bed full of merchandise to bring down there, because Daddy said it's going to be good. It's going to be good. And it was for several years back in the 70s. All through the 70s up to 75 when Daddy lost his lease and he moved up the road and built his own store. But we would get invited to, there was a gentleman that would come down, and every year he would lease him a new Cadillac. And he always wanted a gold one if he could get it. If he couldn't, it was white, but he preferred gold. And most time it was a gold Cadillac. And he said, I only lease it for about 6 months so I can use it for Juneteenth. And Daddy would say, sis, oh, I see it. I see that Cadillac coming down the road. That's the mayor coming. So apparently he was one of the big organizers of the gathering at the Confederate reunion ground, and he was from Dallas. And I said, oh, goodness, and he'd come in and, oh, y'all, gold blinged out, a gold ring on every finger, and his wife carried his wallet in her purse, and she'd be right at his, right at his elbow, what do you think? Well, don't buy him out of candy because JC's got other customers. And Daddy'd say, buy it all, Mayor, if y'all want it. Y'all buy everything. And it was me and my neighbor Donna and 2 other people Daddy would hire to come run the store because we were so busy. We wanted to get people in and out of there and, happy.
I know Johnny worked for him.
Yeah, not when I see Johnny. I don't know. I was about 8 when Johnny quit working for him. This was, this Johnny didn't work on up in the 70s, like I did. By the time 6, 7, 8, about 8, is when he quit working for the store. The rest of us was me and Donna, and sometimes Susan would come out and work. And but no, we was busy. And I tell Daddy, what about the bait shop? And he said, oh, we just closed the door on that. He said, nobody wants bait. They want everything inside this building. And if it's not nailed down, sell it to them. Sell it to them. So every year, Mayor would invite Daddy over to the celebration. And they would have dances and, and they'd have bands over there on the grounds. But the biggest thing was there's a huge pit that used to be over there. And they would do barbecue and ribs and chicken. And they one year had a spigot where they barbecued a big old pig, But anyway, Daddy would tell me about 4:30. He said, listen, we're going to shut down at 5 and we'll open back up in the morning at 7:30. But I'm going to go over there and eat barbecue, And when Daddy went over there, he was like a local celebrity to him because everybody respected the mayor now, And so, Daddy come on, well, get over here. Daddy, come home, take a shower, put on fresh khakis. He always wore khakis, pants and top, right? Get his baseball cap, his newest one, and go over there to eat out of respect. And so when I was about 14, we had worked, and I was so tired I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I've been packing cases, them wooden cases of sodas, bottles, into the store and stocking the freezer that we had there. And Daddy had converted it. It was a big old push open freezer, about a 7-footer, but he converted it down to where it was just cold enough to keep the sodies really cold, right? So anyway, he said, sis, go on over to the house and take a shower. And I said, I always did. I said, well, Daddy, I always do. Once I leave here, I'm so, hot and, from running in and out the door and everything. And he goes, no, I want you to go over there and eat barbecue. Well, I thought, I don't know, Daddy, I don't want to go. He said, I didn't ask if you wanted to go. I want you to go over there, take a shower, and now put on good clothes. Something you'd wear if you're going to school, or something you'd wear if you're going to church. But dress nice and be out the truck about 30 minutes. His pickup. So I got dressed, and I had brand new white tennis shoes. I'll never forget them, and white pedal pushers. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. And then had me the red, white, and blue pullover T-shirt, brand new though. And I looked nice. I looked good, right? And I had long hair, and I pulled it up and put a big ribbon in it. And we went over there. As soon as we pull up, Mr. Mayor's wife come walking out. And she says, well, hello, you finally got this girl over here. And I grinned, and she opened my door, and Daddy got out, and she just did like that. And I took her arm. She escorted me up to the table. And y'all, they had the fancy linen tablecloth, and it was the size of 3 picnic tables together that were made together. All right. And I thought, we're going to eat ribs, barbecue ribs on this white linen. And Daddy said, when you get your plate, just kind of turn to the side. Try not to get nothing on her tablecloth because it's fancy. And it was. And they'd set it up buffet style where they'd fix your plate. Then you could go find somewhere to sit down, But I bet they served 200 people while we were just sitting there eating. Just fast, getting it done. And I said, Dad, when I told him, Daddy, I don't want to go. Please, I'm tired. I know, sis, you're tired. They've been wanting you to come. Miss Mayor said this time, make her come. So I made you come. I said, yeah. And I feel
not so much that it was black people, not to be racist, but just a big gathering of people.
That year they estimated there's 3,100 African American folks there. So I was a little scared, because honestly, when I was coming up, the African American kids in my school didn't like me at all. They just couldn't stand me for no reason. They just didn't like me. You know what I mean? And they were brutal to me on the bus as a little bitty kid, so I had to quit riding the bus.
That's me too. I had to stop riding the bus because of that too.
So and we were outnumbered, and so you're going to take me over there? There's over 3,000 African American folks, and think I'm not going to be uneasy? The whole time we sit there, Daddy just acted like we're sitting at our kitchen table, And he says, I could pull a big fish fry for you, Mayor, if y'all wait an extra day to come on by the place over there, I'll cook up a mess of fried fish. He goes, oh, I got to get back to work. Come to find out, he owned a chain, a big chain of towing companies there in Dallas, like about 15, 20 of them. But he never met folks sweeter. And everybody that come in contact with us there was real nice. There was even a couple of girls that said, you want to come sit with us to eat? Well, I didn't, because I thought, ooh, you look just like the girls that hate me at school. No. I said, I appreciate it, but I think I'll stay right here, Daddy. I was scared, y'all, scared. But that food, corn on the cob, melt in your dang mouth. Big old long ears,
Well, I wanted to read something that I actually found it on the internet here. And so just a moment.
I've been trying, y'all, to keep the glare off my glasses. I can't put up curtains.
Like I say, that was such a big deal. Juneteenth every year at here at Lake Mahat, Comanche Crossing. But something happened that spoiled the party for several years. And I'm going to read about it here. The ghosts of Comanche Crossing.
I'm going to go to the restroom, quick, while you do that.
Okay. And I'm going to read. Every Juneteenth, as soon as Pamela Baker got to Booker T. Washington Park, she'd race to the merry-go-round, squeeze through the swarm of shrieking kids, grab one of the shiny rails, and hold on tight. After a few minutes, she would jump off and dart up the steps of the nearby dance hall to survey the throngs below. She and her brother Carl would weave through the crowd looking for cousins from Dallas and Houston they hadn't seen since the previous year. Eventually, her whole family would congregate under an old oak tree their ancestors had claimed as the gathering place a century before, in the years after news of the end of slavery reached Texas. And in order to read the rest of it, they're asking me to subscribe, and they're not showing the rest of it, and I don't want to subscribe. So hang on just a minute. Let me find another article. Anyway, there were 3 black teenagers that were arrested for having joints. You know, come on. They had some joints. Now, I'm trying to think what year this was. This would be, 79, 80.
No, it was way before then.
Was it?
Yes. We were still living down there.
3 black teenagers arrested at a festival commemorating the freeing of slaves drowned when the boat taking them across a lake capsized. And this is like I'm reading a news article from when this happened.
Yeah.
But police Sunday denied reports the youths were handcuffs. Well,
But they were.
That was bullshit. They were handcuffed.
Yeah.
In San Antonio, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People said the state conference president, Rev. A.H.C. Sutton, would head an investigation into the deaths. The body of Steve Booker, 19, of Dallas, was recovered from Lake Maya Sunday. The bodies of 2 other victims, Carl Baker, 19, and Anthony Freeman, 18, both of Maya, were pulled from the lake Saturday. A witness said he saw officers remove handcuffs from Baker after his body was pulled ashore.
Well, yeah.
But Limestone County Sheriff Dennis Walker called the report completely untrue. You remember old Walker?
Yeah. It was true. Now, this had to be 70. It was before 75. So it had to be 72, 73.
I don't think it was that early. I think it was later.
Yeah, it was, because we were still living there, Jay. And we weren't living there past 75. Y'all moved when I was out of town and got rid of my stuff out of my room, out of my childhood room.
Okay, here we go, Katie. Here we go. You're going to get mad at me, but the truth is the truth. This is June 21st, 1981.
I did not know it was that late.
Yeah.
Well, Daddy went over there.
I'm quoting the facts here.
Yeah, well, no, facts are facts.
This is a newspaper article that's
yeah.
Now, let me continue. And that he said, Walker said there was no handcuffs, but there were handcuffs. The 3 were arrested on suspicion of smoking marijuana, which is so stupid. Come on.
Well,
the cops were down there just intentionally to arrest somebody for smoking dope. That's why they were there. What else would they be there for?
Well, they were in the cabins and went out.
People gathering, there might be some fights or something, or maybe they were there just.
No, they weren't there. They were in boats across the lake.
Oh yeah, okay. But anyway, they were arrested on suspicion of smoking marijuana at a Juneteenth festival Friday night, commemorating the day Texas blacks received word of the Emancipation Proclamation freeing slaves during the Civil War. Because a 2-lane bridge over Comanche Crossing at Lake Mejia was blocked by 5,000 celebrants on the shore, 3 officers used a small aluminum fishing boat to transport the prisoners to patrol cars some 200 yards away on the other side of the lake, about 80 miles southeast of Dallas. Deputy Kenneth Archie said Sunday he removed the youth's handcuffs just before they were placed in the boat. About 40 feet into the lake, he said, the boat began taking on water and was purposely capsized by officers who swam safely back to shore. Archie, who is black, said he was most upset by the failure of anyone on shore to offer help. 30, 40, 50 people or more were there, but didn't but none of them move, he said. Arthur Beecham Jr., a Mejia resident, said he saw searchers remove handcuffs from Baker's body before bringing it to shore. I saw them pull the body from the lake, and it still had the handcuffs on it.
Yeah.
One officer took them off and put them in his pocket. And there's some more about this. But anyway, yeah.
But, well, see, that's when Daddy was able to sell beer. And he had the little store open. And Daddy would sell out, you know, at the store by your house. And so that's why Daddy said, I got to go. I got to go over there and I got to talk to Mayor and tell him we knew about what happened, but we hadn't, you know, he said, there's no way I would have condoned anything like that. That's why Daddy was so highly upset, you know, and both of the local boys had worked with Daddy when they were younger down at the marina. When they was 13, 14, Mom and Daddy bring them out and they would work emptying trash barrels after a big weekend and make money, you know, make them some pocket money. And so Daddy said, I knew two of them kids. I knew them well. He said, you knew them too. You just don't remember. I said, well, we were so busy in the summer. I barely slowed down to go home, take a shower and eat and sleep. And then, I mean, in summer, he was open 8:30 to, you know, 5:30. Summer, I had to be there at 7:30 and stay till 6:30. Sometime it was dark. Sometime it'd be 7 before we'd shut down, you know. And I mean, I was on contract labor, folks. You know, I got paid. I started buying my own school clothes and stuff like that. And he made sure when I was a junior that I got my first car, you know. But anyway, it was so sad and it just broke Daddy's heart. So I got to go down there. I got to go there. And he was starting to lock up. And I was sitting there talking to him. I had a little baby. And I was sitting there and we had the playpen right there. I said, listen, Daddy, leave your store open and we'll go over there. And he said, well, I don't know that there might not be commotion here because of that. And I said, well, I'll take my chance. Whether you'll come in here and do something with me and this little baby, you know? So he took the bulk of the money out of the register and just left me enough to run on. And I had several customers while he's gone. Most of them come in, spend $40, $50, $100 and look over there and see the baby sleeping and got a big kick out of seeing him sleeping. But anyway, where's JC? I said, he's gone over there. He said, you know, this morning when we all got up and, you know, a bunch of people they had big fancy campers, y'all, like tour bus camper things, you know. And when Mayor come out of there and he said, listen, I've got some attorneys from NAACP and Dallas coming down. We're going to be over there at the Limestone County Courthouse and have a little discussion. He said, but y'all know though that Mr. Real, JC, had not nary nothing to do with none of this. Yes, sir, we know, because they're out there fixing breakfast at 6:30, right? For several hundred people. And there's several people there cooking. And he said, so if he comes over here, I don't want nobody saying one sideways word to him. And Daddy said, I'll never forget that. He said, you know, so Daddy got there and they went on up into his big, Daddy called it caravan, but it was like a tour bus to me, y'all, like a modern day tour bus. But Daddy went up in there and they sat there and it was about 4 hours before Daddy come back. He said, oh, he insisted that I eat some of that big old breakfast that they had cooked. They know Daddy was a big eater, you know. So anyway, Daddy said, you know, I just hate this. I hate it as if it was one of mine. And he, you know, and you know, and he said, Mary said, JC, I know. And he said, then some of the pastors from the local churches showed up. They all went outside and had a big old prayer meeting about it. You know, they said they always had a prayer opening day and closing day, okay, of the celebration. That day, he said, I bet you there was 20 or 30 pastors out there, sis. And we had prayer meeting. So thank you for running the place. I said, yeah. Because on a good week, Daddy make $400 or $500, right? On a normal week for his little store. That week between me running it just those few hours and then staying out there helping him while he run it, you know, one person can't run a little store and go to the bathroom, grab something to eat. You know what I mean? So I would help him at his store. And, it was a little tackle bait shop, had groceries. We had menace. We sold worms, but a lot of beer. He got his own liquor license so we could sell beer down there. Anyway, when he opened his store, he brought in almost $2,000 that week on a five-day celebration. So it meant so much to Daddy that they hunted him up. They went down there to the marina and they said, JC, you weren't there. We never seen such a mess as that place is in there now. One or two people walked in and said, Mayor, don't go down there. We heard Mr. Reels up the road. He said, so when he drove down from Dallas, he found Daddy real quick and told everybody where he was. And he had a megaphone. Mr. Mayor had a megaphone where, everybody could hear him when he talked. Because, you get thousands of people out there, talking to each other as much as I do. But anyway.
For years after this happened, it really hurt the turnout down there, Comanche Crossing. There would be a scattering of people down there, but nothing like it used to be. Mm-hmm. Where it would just be, 1,000 people.
Several thousand people.
When the 3 drowned on that day in Juneteenth, that really hurt the turnout for Juneteenth. Now it has since improved, over the years because this is 1981. So, but anyway, getting away from Juneteenth and anyone that's watching, happy Juneteenth. I hope
happy Juneteenth, y'all.
Having a good one. But let me change the subject because this is June the 19th. And guess what movie Tomorrow was released in 1975?
Jaws. Nana. Yep. I saw that when I was researching different things. I said, Jaws, it's got an anniversary tomorrow.
And my God, 50 years, that just blows my mind because I remember, and I've talked about this. I'm not going to go over it too deeply, but I remember one of the highlights of my movie viewing experience in my lifetime was going with you, I think
Susan, yeah,
Daniels, my friend Morgan McBride, because the McBrides used to camp at they were good friends with Mom and Daddy, the McBrides, particularly Daddy, and their son Morgan, and Daddy rigged a connection to the electricity so they could put their camper here in our yard, and they would camp out here during the summertime, right here in our yard in their camper. So he had them hooked up to electricity and all that so they could camp out here. I don't know, they might have given Daddy a little something, but didn't have to pay him any kind of rent. I had to pay for electricity. Maybe they give him a little something for electricity. Anyway, and I remember so clearly Morgan knocking on the door. It's at night. Anyway, the sun is set. And I go to the door and it's Morgan. Hey, you want to go see Jaws? And I'm like, oh my God, Jaws. And it was such a big deal because I had already read the book. The book was a big deal. The book Jaws was such a big deal at the time. And the movie, the trailer, seeing that point of view shot of the shark going through the water and John Williams don. And I was in the 4th grade in Ross Elementary. And all the kids were telling me how that they had seen it and gone to Waco or whatever and saw Jaws. Oh, Jay, you get this scene and this scene and this scene, and the kid on the raft gets eaten and all that. I could not wait to see Jaws. So, 1975. I don't know. This would probably be around July because it would take a month or two before my head would finally get a new movie. And going to see Jaws and sitting in that's the first time I remember standing in a long line to see a movie.
Yeah.
And a packed theater. Probably broke the fire code, probably broke laws because there wasn't a seat in the house that didn't have a person. And completely full theater watching Jaws. And I've said this many times, that's my favorite movie Yeah, there's better movies, there's greater movies, there's more important movies, but there is no movie that I have seen more and no movie that I enjoy watching more than Jaws. Um, it's a perfect film to me from beginning to end. It's got everything you want in a film. It's exciting. It's scary as hell. It's funny in places. It's touching in places. It's an adventure and the best cast ever as far as people in a movie. Yeah, it's my favorite movie, Jaws. 50 fucking years ago. Tomorrow.
Well,
when
I graduated May 1975.
So, and I was 9, so I'm doing the math. I guess I was 9 years old when I saw Jaws.
Yeah.
That September I turned 60.
I had already talked to Mama on the phone. And Susan, I was still living with Susan and her mom and dad. And so she says, "You want to go see Jaws tomorrow?" Because she worked a part-time job and then I worked part-time job and we both got paid. And I said, "Yeah." So I called Mama. I said, "Hey, Mama, can I take Jay to see Jaws?" She said, "Yes. I've heard so much about that movie. He could probably talk about it. Probably does talk about it in his sleep. Yeah, yeah, please come get him." So Susan and I was so excited to tell you, but I didn't want to wake up Daddy. So I came out there and me and Susan just drove out there to tell you, tomorrow we're going to go see Jaws.
Yeah, well, it was Morgan. I remember Morgan telling me.
I don't remember.
Like, oh my God, yes. And that was just at the time, as a kid, a 9-year-old kid. This was, man, this is just
like Mama might have told
Christmas morning to finally go see Jaws after all these kids at school telling me how great it was and commercials. And just hearing how great the movie was.
Yeah.
And just the idea of this shark hunting down people, beach goers.
And Susan had been on a date and saw it already, right? And so she and I had the phone like this where both of us could talk to Mom. And she said, "Miss Real, there's several bloody scenes and Shark eats somebody." And she said, "I don't care. That boy's got to see this movie. He's wanted to see this movie. I have heard so much about it. Please come get him." And that's when she said, "And if they'll let Morgan go, I'll tell his mom and daddy." And well, Daddy wasn't a drinker, so Mama, tell Mama. And if they think it's okay, then so they probably just told him, "Tomorrow you go see Jaws," and that's when he come and told you. We were going to surprise you. Mama said, "Tell him you got take him Dairy Queen or something."
And I remember at the beginning of the movie, holding Susan's hand. She goes, "You want me to hold your hand, Jay? You gonna be scared?" I said, "Yeah." And so I held her hand because at the beginning, when Chrissy, the girl, is getting eaten up by the shark in the water, I squoze her hand. I remember
Bless her heart. She does. She remembers it to this day.
She was holding my hand and squeezing my hand because that was just, oh God, one of the scariest things I'd ever seen. And it was scary and exciting at the same time because you're in this theater full of people and you can just kind of feel the vibrations of everyone else all excited.
Yeah. And going, yeah.
We're cringing and like, oh my God. And at the end, when Brody does a smile, you son of a bitch, and shoots with the shark, everyone stood up and laughed. And then we all stood up and cheered. And it was one of those rare instances where you're just combined in this, moment. You and all these people are really, you're all connected.
You're you're riding the same ride, Jack.
Riding the ride together, yeah. And it was one of the best theater going experiences of my life was watching Jaws with this packed theater and all the exciting shit and it's very scary because I'm 9 years old. I'm scared as hell too while this is going on.
He was so little, y'all. He was a little skinny boy too.
Yeah.
And so, we get up there to check in.
I'm also scared, just like, oh God.
And I tell you, we get up there and Miss Woods was still running it. And Susan just walked up to the window and said, "We need 4 tickets." She said, "That's some awful small kids y'all have with you." And Susan said, "Yes, ma'am, but they're staying. That's his sister, and they're staying." She says, "Is that your little brother?" And she said, "Yes, ma'am." She didn't have no little brother. She had a brother older than her. And she said, "Okay, I don't care, but they stay right with you." "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They're going to stay right with us." "Shoot, I tried to get you once to go potty." I said, "You were restless." I said, "Jay, you need to pee a little bit." I said, "Well, let's run up there. I'll stand right outside the door. You run in there and I'll wait right here." "No, nope, you weren't leaving that seat." Susan said, "If he has an accident, let him have an accident. I don't blame him. He don't have to go." I said, "Susan, what am I going to do?" She said, "Leave him alone."
But yeah, this
Well,
was.
Morgan wouldn't take my hand. I said, "You want to hold my hand, Morgan?" "Nope."
It's that 50 years ago bit that just blows my mind. That this will be 50 years ago. Oh my God. Yeah, 50 years ago. Yeah. And
That shouldn't blow your mind. Come on now.
but yeah, it's still my favorite movie. I need to watch it here pretty soon because usually around July 4th I watch Jaws. I sometimes watch Jaws 2 or 3 times a year
I watched it May 7th.
because it's my one of my comfort movies that I'll just put on, and because I stream most of my stuff now, or I stream everything now. But I think Netflix may have it. There's other. I think Tubi's got it.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Tubi that time. I sent you a message, "Jay, I'm watching Jaws," and you go, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah," because I tried to watch it about a year ago, but everywhere streaming wanted to charge you way too much, right? And I said, "No, I can't do that. I'll order it and buy it before I do that." And I don't own hardly any physical media, but streaming,
everything. Spielberg's direction, the performances, of course, and that damn Indianapolis scene. One of the best scenes in a movie. Period. Is that his Indianapolis story. I've quoted that. I did a watch along with.
I know I saw you quoting it, and I'm like,
I quoted it.
I didn't know you had that skill.
The subtitles up, and I've read it because that's one of my favorite all-time scenes in a movie is the Indianapolis story. Yeah. But yeah, I could go on and I could do a whole show just talk about Jaws. It's my favorite movie, and 50 years ago tomorrow it was released in the theaters. So yeah,
well, it's definitely in my top 5. It really is. Streaming has out-produced cable finally.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that today on the news.
Did you see that? Yeah. And if you ever subscribe to the dailies, you'll get a big kick out of all that other stuff I've been reading. And there's a company that's using robots to build robots. I thought that was cool. And in Austin last week, this lady was walking down the sidewalk. She said, "Oh, y'all got to see this." And she put it on video, and I think one of the local TV channels, showed it. One of those robots was with shoes and a cowboy hat, just walking down the sidewalk beside her. She said, "Y'all look at this, look at this." He just walking. I would have tried to talk to him myself, but she said, look. And she's doing like this. And she's, "Look," And her husband goes, "Well, video it." And so she did. They were just down there where April and I used to go eat pizza. And she, and I was introduced to her husband now over 15 years, right down that area. South Congress, here's the robot just walking. And there's a lot of red lights and stuff. You got to stop and wait for traffic to go across. But apparently nobody ran over him. I guess he knew to watch the red lights. I guess it was a he. How can you tell? But I would have tried to talk to it. But people are scared of them. And then Elon Musk had this big presentation. Did you see it? Oh, you got to watch it if you hadn't seen it.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, it's the newest releases. He had a big gathering. It's just been a couple of days. And he unleashed robots. He said they'll run between 20 and 30,000. that you can get that could even babysit your kids and mow your yard and do household chores and be your friend. And he showed some of them. And people were talking to him and the robots were having a conversation back. And then he what I don't know what you call that, but they drive without people driving them. They all these people come in and it looked like a little bigger than them little short buses, but it's round. You can't see no wheels on it, but of course it moves. It comes in and the doors open and all these people get out that work for him, engineers and stuff like that. And it's going to be released throughout the world. And it's them don't need nobody to drive vehicles. But the robot thing was cool. It showed a family, sitting at a table and here's a robot, and it was just like still pictures, but he says they'll be able to, they could even babysit your kids, And one of the guys on, I think it was NBC I was watching, he goes, "Oh no, I wouldn't let nobody like that. Right? No, what if it goes crazy?" Because you would charge them. And so the other guy at the table said, "You just turn it off. What do you mean?" No. Reach back there and turn it off. But they were tall. They were like maybe 6 foot or close to it. But the one walking downtown Austin just tickled the pudding waffle out of me. I thought that was so cool. And I got a couple more news things. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. A fake trucking company in Tennessee stole 80,000 pounds of meat, totaling $500,000. So they got them some cow. I don't know what all kind of meat, but I thought, oh my gosh. So somebody bought a truck with air conditioned back, no logos on the truck, and backed up and said, "I'm here to pick up the meat." And it still hadn't been found. They don't know where it is. Somebody's neighbor said, hey, call Harvey. Harvey's got some steaks real cheap. But anyway, and then a 71-year-old man, I think this was New York, but I'm not for sure. Don't quote me right on it. Was arrested when officers found 7 emotional support full-grown tigers in his house. Oh, my Lord.
Support tigers.
Yeah, there's 7 of them. But and it showed a picture of him and the tigers, all the tigers, and then his hands behind his back,
I don't know. I would be emotionally supported by any animal that could eat me alive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a wonder they didn't get, instincts alone,
Yeah.
Apparently they were well fed.
I would hope
so. I say, Stephen King's new book, Never Flinch. I got a picture of it. I took at Target, but I'm waiting to find reviews on it. I've looked, and most people are now just reading it because it's just, pretty much newly released. But I want to learn about it. And then, tornado season, Jay. And hurricane seasons come early. Hurricane Eric, ERICK, it's almost a hurricane, expected to land tomorrow at a Category 2 with 110 miles an hour winds, and forecasted to hit Acapulco to Puerto Angel in Mexico. And we ain't that far. Texas ain't that far from Mexico. And what spins off out of the hurricanes? Torrential rains and possible tornadoes. So they're keeping
at least for the next 10 days, nothing for us. No.
Yeah,
rain,
that's good.
No.
But yeah. And
I want to talk about a couple of things that one, in being nearly 60 years old, there's not many things that excite me, and it's sad the few things that do. But one of the things that excites me is, I have mentioned this before, the only thing I really collect as far as collecting anything is Batman Hot Wheels. Mainly Batmobiles, but occasionally it might be a Batcopter or a Batplane or something like that, but usually it's Batmobiles. And what's cool about the Batmobiles is that there will be variations. Well, I'll show you. Okay, here's the classic 1960s
TV show.
TV show Batmobile.
I love that show.
The bang pow and all that.
Yes, I started to say that.
Yeah. And so there's the classic 60s Batmobile. But they did a variation. They did a classic 60s Batmobile, but they did a silver version.
Oh, man, that's neat looking.
It's a silver 60s Batmobile. And then they did a cute little, short little squat 60s Batmobile, but it's a little compact little.
And it's red.
Yeah, and it's red.
Oh, neat.
But it's compact. It's a little like.
It's a little classic baby.
But
then there's more.
They did a variation of that, and it's like blue green and yeah.
Aww.
And that just excites the shit out of me when I see.
You were upset because there hadn't been nothing new.
You know. Oh yeah, there haven't been new ones in a while. All right, at least at the local Walmart they haven't.
He was talking ugly about Mattel, y'all. I heard him. Yeah. Come on.
Well, it's the country of Mattel that Trump says is the country.
I forgot. And I think the weather there at the country of Mattel is just as hot as it is here in Texas.
Yeah, here it's in the 90s, and it's we had like flooding rains last week, but this week, and at least for the next 10 days, it's just going to be hot. No rain.
I mean, I expect us to at least hit 110 as a streak this summer.
But the heat index gets over 100, but the main temperatures are in the low to mid 90s. But anyway, that excites me. New Batmobile or new Batman.
Yeah.
But the other thing that excites me is a new Pop-Tart flavor. Because what I do is I drink two pods. I have a Keurig. I drink 2 coffee pods, and I fill up my coffee carafe, or what do you call the thing?
Yeah.
And I drink that, and I eat a Pop-Tart. Now, here in the summertime, I eat cold Pop-Tarts. I put them in the freezer and get them cold.
Oh, I didn't think to do that.
Yeah. In fact, they used to on the box. I don't know if they still do, but they used to on the box. For freezer. Put pouch in freezer. Wait 20 minutes. Enjoy that frosty goodness.
I would have never thought to. I thought they'd be, slimy tasting.
You need to put you some Pop-Tarts in the freezer. And it kind of tastes almost like an ice cream.
How much sodium is in that?
But probably a ton of it. Sodium. Sodium, you say. Hang on. And then there's the sugars. Oh, 350 milligrams.
I get 500 per meal. I get 3 meals a day.
So anyway, and so I went to Walmart recently with my neighbors, the Loves, and there's a new Pop-Tart flavor, at least new to me. And this is Girl Scouts Frosted Coconut Caramel.
Looks mighty good.
And there's a picture, where is it, right there, of the actual cookie.
Yeah. Have you tried it?
No, I have not. I have not opened the box. So I'm going to do a taste test.
Oh, yeah, do a taste test. Yay, I like taste tests.
I'm going to do a taste test of, and let's open a package here and see what.
I thought he had one for breakfast. He was raving so much about it. They looked good.
Okay.
And I do like them Girl Scout cookies.
So
look at it. Yep.
That's what it looks like.
Did you know you could butter bread on both sides or one side or whatever and put it in your toaster? Just regular toaster.
I haven't tried that.
I seen a lady do it on TV.
I'm going to cook it, so hang on.
Yeah. There was a lady that did it on TV and they came out perfect. And it don't hurt your toaster. I'm like, my toaster died. And I thought my little microwave, I got that cheap $50 microwave, when I moved in here. Gosh, it was a year December. Anyway, the day I moved in, the next day April and Dot come over, and we went and got everything I needed, for my little apartment. Your shower curtain, your basics and whatnot. And I bought that microwave. So last night, I made a big spread of food, and I don't normally cook, but April had brought me fresh zucchini from her garden. So I'm like, oh no, I ain't gonna waste this. I ain't gonna let this go bad. I'm gonna cook it, right? And I roasted it with seasoning and stuff. Oh, it was so good. But anyway,
Well, pasta. You had pasta.
yeah, well, I had pasta and I had a grilled, well, not grilled, a cooked oven baked. There you go, piece of tilapia, and it was so. I put them all together. See, and then I bought me some low sodium spaghetti sauce that online that I'm in some of them groups trying to learn how to eat better. But anyway, it was good. It was so good. Oh, it was good. But anyway,
It smells good. It's over. It's in the toaster cooking, and it smells good. It's got a good smell.
look at you. It's that cinnamon. I love cinnamon.
It maybe might be the cinnamon. But yeah, it's kind of a cinnamony kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got piss ants in my kitchen. Usually I don't see them in the kitchen, but I'll get a piss ant that'll come out of the electrical outlet this time of year looking for water. And and I just tape up the little hole they come out of. But in the kitchen,
Growing up, you mentioning piss ants. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, it's okay.
that sparked something in my mind. Piss ants, because what piss ants are these tiny, tiny, tiny little ants. You almost need a microscope to see any kind of detail on them.
But you can see them moving.
But they gather by the thousands. I mean, they swarm you. These little piss ants. There's little thousands of little, but they're tiny, tiny, tiny little ants. The other thing about piss ants is that, at least growing up for me, that was a term for carrying something. If you're going to carry, I'm going to carry this, glass of water over to the store for Daddy to drink. I'm going to piss ant this glass of water.
He used it. Some Mama used it a lot.
Well, Daddy used it a lot too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got to piss ant that damn log over there and burn it. Or piss ant, and that's what it means to carry something. Is to piss ant it. Piss.
But I think that's a Southern thing.
And maybe. Because I've heard Tommy Wright use that term. I've heard a few other people use that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Because J. Rail, would you help me? There's a big old limb that's fell in the back of my. Would you help me piss ant it over there and put it on my burn pile? And because it ain't piss ant, it's piss ain't.
Yeah.
Piss ain't. You
piss ain't.
The things we grew up with was piss ain't. You carry something, you're going to piss ain't it. You didn't wash anything. You washed. It had an R in it.
Yeah, you washed it.
And, if it was a pile of clothes to be washed, well, that was the wash. The wash.
Well, Daddy also used tote. Would you tote this over there?
Tote something. Yeah, tote something.
Yeah, Daddy, I tote it over there.
But anyway, here's the taste test.
You need to take a bite before it gets too cold.
Girl Scout frosted caramel Pop-Tart.
Looks
I
good.
don't know if I've actually tasted the actual cookie. And if they're going to make a Girl Scout cookie Pop-Tart, they need to make Thin Mints, because I love Thin Mints.
You can buy generic Thin Mints at the Dollar Tree.
I think I've had those, and I put them in the freezer and get them cold.
Yeah, and they taste exactly like the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah. Anyway, frosted coconut caramel Pop-Tart.
Girl Scout cookie.
Girl Scout cookie.
Yeah. It's got to be good. Oh my gosh.
It's very flavorful. Because usually, and I've said this back when I used to do the show with Dana, pretty much I get excited by a new Pop-Tart flavor, but they almost always taste the same to me. They just have a little variation, but they hardly, I like them. But unless if it's a fruit flavor, whether it's strawberry or cherry or blueberry, they all taste the same. But this one is very flavorful. Just from the very first bite, it kind of explodes in your taste buds. It's got a very flavorful. taste it. I
I'm
don't taste.
ha-
I don't
um,
taste coconut. I do taste the caramel. The caramel is very distinctive.
this is my favorite water jug, and I'm having to catch up on water because I'm got to go out in the heat, and and so I'm been sucking down this water. So y'all look see me, all you see me doing it because I gotta drink this whole thing.
Well, anyway, y'all need to look these up. Girl Scout frosted. Hang on, let me get it right. Coconut caramel Pop Tarts. Yeah,
Coconut.
I don't really taste the coconut. The coconut, I
Yeah,
don't taste any coconut. That caramel is very distinctive. The caramel
I
flavor.
love coconut cookies
Mm.
with the chocolate, And I don't know if it's Nabisco. Some cookie company makes them, but there's a brand that HEB sells, and it's like $2 and something for the bag instead of the $3 or $4 something. And they're coconut cookies, and they're so good. They're coconut and chocolate. But now,
This might be my favorite Pop Tart. I mean, this because I eat them every day, but this might be my favorite. It just is the flavor of it. I bet you frozen and cold like I've been eating them. These would be really good too. With my coffee.
especially coming in from being outside hot, I need a snack sometime, just a snack. I had to ate yogurt this morning. What else have I eaten? Not much of nothing. I haven't had an appetite today. And I went to the cardiologist yesterday. Let me get that out. I carry fluid around my heart. Hadn't caused me any major trouble. I've had an echocardiogram when I was in the hospital around May 20th. That's okay. That came back okay. So I go to this brand new patient with this cardiologist. Nice man. Went in to see him. Well, everything, the rhythm, they did EKG while I was sitting there. The lady did before he came in. Everything looks really good. Really good. He said, it looks like you're doing good. And my blood pressure is a little low, 90/60. I said, what's going on with my blood pressure? And he goes, well, you need to decrease one of your blood pressure pills in half. Well, this morning I forgot, y'all just took it. But anyway, I will. I wrote it on the bottle everywhere because I set my medicines out. As I take them, I put them in the bag because I'm old, and that way I don't forget or take one more than I should or whatnot. I got a system. I got a system. I need to do some insulin here in a minute. But anyway, what I was going to say was, he said, well, tell you what we could do. Let's do an heart catheter on you. And that'll look at all your little veins in your heart, make sure everything's the way it should. Everything I'm seeing looks fine. But, that's just an extra precaution. And I said, okay, I'll consider that. Sure. Well, they shouldn't have sent the paperwork home with me to read. Because when I got home and I was reading through it, see, I have no trouble with my heart right now. The fluid's not too bad. Got a murmur from birth. Oh, well, that's no biggie. Well, I read through the paperwork. Now, listen, my mother had one, but she ended up having to have a quadruple bypass. She drove herself to the hospital having a heart attack. Okay. So, but I'm not, nothing like that's going on with me. Nothing like that's going on with me. So when I read what could happen to you while they're doing this, he said, your mother's was an 8-hour procedure. This is 15 minutes. We speed dunk her in your heart, basically. You didn't say it like that. That's what I'm saying. And when they come out, even months to a year later, it could cause blood clots, instant death. I mean, you stick a wire in somebody's heart, I mean, it might be microscopic. I don't care. There's so many things that could go wrong. And I'm like, well, of course, he don't do none of the schedule. He just said, well, I'd like to see that. Then that way we'd have full picture. See me? I'm alive. That's the most picture he's going to get. I'm not going to do it. I'm refusing. And so I said, well, when I went to check out, I told that little gal, she said, well, look, he says he'd like you to have that. And I said, huh? Well, don't call me till August, and the scheduling lady for that, because you go to the hospital, they do it. It's outpatient. You either make it or you don't, I guess. But anyway, I said, when she calls, I'm gonna say, nope. You tell him I decided I'm not going through that procedure. Not now. Now later on, y'all, if I start having trouble, something major, then yes, I would say okay. But to me, the risk outweighs the benefit, so that ain't happening.
Yeah.
But it's heavy up on my mind. You know, it's heavy on my mind. And I talked to my first cousin and my daughter, and both of them said, "Mama, please." My cousin said, "Why put yourself through that when there's no reason to?" And there's not. You know what I mean, y'all? Well, that way we can have a look, see. Let me bend over and you can look and see. No. So that was not a hard decision to make.
Yeah. No, I don't blame you about that.
Yeah, that's
you had the other
scary.
tests done. Everything looks good as far as
Yeah. But let's listen. Let's say a little prayer for the people that are dealing with. Yesterday, 19 twisters hit 3 states. Now, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, even Minnesota, and no, they don't have any fatalities shown, but those twisters are scary, y'all. Texas, thank goodness we hadn't been hit with too many of them. But I thought, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I mean, they're kind of used to the 100-mile-an-hour winds. They're kind of used to that. I'm not, right? But I still thought about those people. I couldn't help but think right about them. And then also West Virginia, they're having some dangerous floods. I remember going through West Virginia. I traveled with my cousin and her husband and my other cousin. And I remember traveling in their motorhome. We went on up to Michigan and spent a couple of nights with his people, as the Texans say, his folks. But anyway, I remember West Virginia. But I liked Virginia. When we stopped in Virginia and did some stuff there, I liked that a lot. It was cool. But
that just
anyway,
as soon as you said that song lyric popped in my head. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country road.
country roads. Hey, y'all, if you haven't heard and you like any kind of country at all, if you hadn't heard Blake Shelton's new song, Texas, I think it's been out for a few months, but I love it. It talks about him and his girlfriend breaking up. Where's she gone? I don't know. She's probably down in Texas.
But anyway, Bob Denver.
You like Bob Denver?
Well, I like Bob Denver, and I liked him in Oh God. The movie Oh God.
Yeah, I never cared for him myself.
Oh, I loved Oh God, and I like Bob Denver in that.
Yeah. I just never cared for Bob Denver myself. Now, let me tell you about White Lotus. I've been watching White Lotus. And I don't know that I'm all that taken with it. I was at first.
I really enjoyed the first season.
Yeah.
And I stuck it out and watched the whole thing. And, I didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world, but it kept me watching.
Yeah, and I loved the first season.
It kept me watching enough to where I enjoyed it and wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
But then I started the second season, and they're in another country, and
they're in Thailand,
and there's subtitles everywhere, and I'm like, I don't want to do the subtitles, So I kind of bowed out on season 2, but I enjoyed season 1. I may give season 2 another try, but like I say, there are these subtitles popping up.
I went to sleep watching it the other night, and and I woke up and turned it off. But I gotta go back and watch. Probably an hour. I probably was asleep an hour before I woke up to turn it off. But there's a White Lotus in Thailand. It's gorgeous resort thing, and they're there, right? And it showed one episode that was coming up that hadn't showed all of it yet. that they get invaded. There's all these guerrillas come in there and start shooting. You know, there's this young kid there visiting his mama because she's staying 3 months. She's learning everything about it to take it back to Hawaii, right? So she's learning all about it. And she's doing, she's working, she's doing some of the massages and stuff like that because it's like a health resort, Yeah. Anyway, it shows him running and he jumped in this water and he's praying to this statue. He said, please protect my mama, And all you can hear is gunfire, y'all. Gunfire. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. But it makes you wonder, But I don't know if where I woke up and just glanced at it was after that or before it. See, because it don't tell you when that part's gonna show. It's in the preview thing. But
yeah,
anyway,
I like the first season, and I'll give second season another try. It kind of threw me off. Those subtitles threw me off.
Well, I didn't see any
characters that
subtitles.
were returning. The woman, I really like the woman that she's kind of nutty, and I like her. She returned for the second season. So, but yeah, I'll give it another try. I may just start it again and just the second season. But I really did like the first season. To watch all of it.
I see all the subtitles, but they're in a language I couldn't read anyway, so I just kind of ignore them.
And also, as far as a movie recommendation, if you have Paramount Plus, and this came out last year, I forget what month it came out, but it's a fairly new movie called
Dribbles.
Novocaine. And I really enjoyed Novocaine. I had a lot of fun with Novocaine.
I gotta watch it tonight.
And it's a guy. He works at a bank, but he's real shy. He hasn't done any kind of dating or anything. So he meets a girl that he's attracted to, and they kind of flirt with each other. And he finally reveals to her his condition. His condition is he can't feel pain. And then the bank he's at gets robbed, and she gets kidnapped in the robbery. And so he spends the movie trying to track her down and to save her. And his condition where he can't feel pain, that helps him fight people because he can I get a spoiler alert. One of the things he does at one point, he breaks his arm open and his bone is poking out of his arm, and he shoves the bone into a guy's throat and kills him that way with the bone of his arm. He can't feel it, Now it fucks him up, He can die, He can bleed to death, But he can't feel pain. But anyway, I really liked it. It gets really gross and gory in some parts. It's almost a slasher film in some ways because it gets so bloody and gory in places. But I had really enjoyed Novocaine. So, yeah, I definitely would recommend that. On Paramount Plus, look that up, Novocaine. Give that a try. Kathy says she's going to watch it.
I'm going to watch it.
I'm anxious to see what you think about Novocaine.
We talked about it for a while, and I thought, well, I don't know. And then,
I just recently watched it, and I like that. I enjoyed that. So, yeah, Novocaine. But I guess we'll kind of wind down here. We've done an hour and 15, nearly an hour and 20 minutes, and it's good. Talk about Juneteenth. Now, like I say, once again, no one's chimed in today, so I don't have anyone to thank for that. But if you're watching, please hit that thumbs up. And you may not think that that's a big deal, but it helps the algorithm or whatever. People find the show. Please hit that thumbs up. That sure helps people find the show, particularly if you're enjoying it.
Yeah. If you like the content, follow the channel.
I've been talking to Brandon, and I think hopefully tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, the subject is going to be scariest scenes from horror movies. Now, that's one that we could do a couple of shows on,
that sounds like a good topic.
They have a long list. And I also talked to Dirk from Subjective Perspective Collective. Now, he's a busy guy, I don't know where he works. And
visit his channel if you get a chance.
He's got his own channel, and he does a lot of stuff with the Dead Pit guys. So he's a busy guy. but I think he said that he can find a time to join us tomorrow night. So hopefully he can be able to join us, Dirk, because I'll bet he'll have some good stuff to chime in on that. The scariest horror film, because that's mainly what he does on his show and the stuff with the Dead Pit guys is talking about horror movies, you know. So, but yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to. Hopefully that's going to work out good. So yeah, you're going to chime in 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night, Friday night. Yeah, scariest scenes from horror, or most intense scenes, or the most shocking scenes, that kind of stuff from horror films. So, and yeah,
it'll be good. Oh,
yeah,
I would like to.
That'll be good. It's a good subject. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
But yeah, you guys that are celebrating Juneteenth, I hope you have a good one. Enjoy the day. Eat barbecue and everything like what Kathy talked about.
Yeah, celebrate. I'm going downtown to see my. You know what song keeps hitting my mind? Ding-a-ling. Remember that 60s song?
My ding-a-ling.
I hate myself that it keeps hitting my mind. I'm like, why? Where did that come from? And stop it, you know? Okay, well, thank you for having me again, Brother Child.
And thank you, everyone that's watching or will watch.
Right.
Give the thumbs up. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
You have a good day. Enjoy whatever you're going to go do. And everybody, enjoy the day. And hopefully tomorrow night, we're going to be doing more with you for you guys. Hope so. But yeah, happy Juneteenth. Talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.